Have you ever looked at a perfectly polished car or maybe a phone screen that just refuses to scratch and wondered, how do they do that? Well, it's not magic. It's actually a microscopic war being fought every single second. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the hidden science that makes a surface coating last or fail in the most spectacular way. Let's get into it.
Yeah, it really all boils down to this, doesn't it? Why does the paint on one car start flaking off after just a year, while another one still looks brand new a decade later? The answer isn't just one simple thing. It's actually a series of brutal, interconnected trials that every single coating has to pass to prove it's got what it takes. And that's what we're going to break down, one trial at a time.
And that brings us to the first and honestly the most fundamental challenge of them all, adhesion. Before a coating can even think about fending off scratches or surviving the heat, it has to do one thing perfectly. It has to stick. Seriously, if it fails this first test, nothing else even matters. So, adhesion, what is it? Well, in the simplest terms, it's the grip. It's that force holding the coating to the surface, what scientists call the substrate. This bond is the entire foundation for everything that follows. But what's really cool is that it's not just one kind of grip. The science of sticking actually works in two very different ways.
This is so fascinating. On the one hand, you've got mechanical interlocking. I want you to think of this like microscopic Velcro. It's a physical, brute force grip where the coating literally sinks its claws into all the tiny nooks and crannies of the surface. But then on the other hand, you have chemical bonding. This is way more elegant. It's like a molecular glue, a true handshake between the atoms of the coating and the atoms of the surface. The best coatings, they're designed to do both.
That's the million-dollar question, right? You can have the most advanced coating formula in the world, but if the surface isn't ready for it, you're not going to get that critical mechanical grip. You have to prepare the battlefield. And this three-step process is basically the secret sauce. You have to start by cleaning, and I mean everything. Any tiny speck of oil or dust is a potential point of failure just waiting to happen. Then comes the really crucial part for that Velcro effect. You have to roughen it up, creating the perfect landscape of peaks and valleys for the coating to anchor into. Only then, when everything is perfect, can you apply the coating.
And hey, don't just take my word for it. This isn't just theory. Research from Wijaya at his team in 2024 gave us the proof. They found that something as simple as abrasive blast cleaning, which is basically sandblasting, dramatically improved the grip. Why? Because it created that perfect rough terrain for mechanical interlocking. It's a direct, measurable link between preparing the surface and how well the coating performs.
So why does this matter so much? Well, without that powerful bond, everything falls apart. When you see paint peeling off a house or a protective film bubbling on a screen, what you're really witnessing is a failure of adhesion. That foundational bond just broke. The battle was lost before it even really began. Okay, so let's say our coating passed the first test with flying colors. It has a perfect bond, it's locked on tight, but now it faces its second trial, the environment itself. And you know, one of its most relentless enemies is just plain old temperature. This is a perfect way to visualize the problem. Just about everything expands when it gets hot and contracts when it cools down. But here's the catch. The coating and the surface it's on are usually different materials, which means they expand and contract at different rates. This mismatch creates a constant invisible tug of war right at the bond line, trying to tear the two apart from the inside out. And that constant stress can lead to total disaster. It can cause delamination, which is when the coating just peels away in sheets. It can lead to tiny little cracks that let moisture and rust get in. And over time, all that internal stress just builds and builds until the coating simply gives up. You know, as researchers Torres and Fernandez pointed out in 2024, this thermal stress is a direct attack on the very adhesion we were just talking about. If that initial bond isn't strong enough to handle this constant pushing and pulling, the coating is doomed. It just goes to show how all these trials are connected. A failure in one can bring the whole thing crashing down. And believe me, this isn't some abstract lab problem. Think about the absolutely brutal heat blasting a jet engine, or the constant flash heating and cooling of a nonstick frying pan, or even just decades of sun beating down on a skyscraper. The coatings on these things are basically thermal warriors, specifically engineered to expand and contract in perfect sync with what they're protecting. So our coating is stuck on tight. It can handle wild temperature swings. But now comes the final trial. The physical world. It has to survive being dropped, scraped, bumped, and just generally worn down by life. In other words, it needs to be tough. So what do we even mean when we say a coating is tough? Well, it's really a balance of a few key properties. You've got hardness, that's the ability to resist scratches, kind of like a diamond. Then there's wear resistance, which is all about enduring friction, like the tread on a tire. And finally, impact resistance, which is about absorbing a sudden blow without shattering, like a good safety helmet. A truly great coating needs the right recipe of all three. Okay, so where does all this toughness come from? Well, the secret lies deep inside the coating itself. It's in its internal architecture, what scientists call its microstructure. The way the atoms and grains of the material are packed together, well, that determines everything. And we've got the research to prove it. This finding from Cambo and Singh shows that coatings with a really dense, tightly packed structure made of superfine grains were incredibly hard and resistant to wear. Think about it like building a wall. You could use big, clunky, irregular rocks, or you could use small, perfectly fitted stones. That dense structure leaves no room for weakness. It makes the coating incredibly difficult to damage. So what does this mean for you? Well, this is the exact science that's protecting that very expensive phone in your pocket right now. That Gorilla Glass, its microstructure has been engineered at a molecular level for the perfect blend of hardness and impact resistance. The same idea applies to the coatings on high-end drill bits that have to withstand unbelievable physical punishment. So we've walked through the 3 brutal trials every coating has to pass. It has to stick, it has to survive the heat, and it has to be tough enough for the real world. But the real secret, the key to it all, isn't just about acing one test. It's about how they all work together. It all has to start with that unbreakable foundation, that powerful adhesion anchoring the coating to the surface. Then, built on top of that foundation, it needs thermal stability, so it can endure that constant push and pull from temperature changes without even flinching. And finally, it's got to be crowned with mechanical toughness, giving it the raw strength to withstand every single scratch, bump, and scrape the world can throw at it. And that right there, that is the ultimate takeaway. True, lasting durability is never, ever just one thing. It's a system where each part depends completely on the others. This is the durability trinity, a perfect, hard-won harmony between adhesion, thermal stability, and mechanical toughness. So the next time you admire a perfect finish on a car, a tool, or even your own phone, maybe you'll see it a little differently. You won't just see a color or a texture. You'll see the invisible science, the story of a coating that won all of its battles, a true champion of durability. Thanks for watching.